Okay, my gorgeous Sagittarius and Taurus, are you ready? We are going to deep dive, okay? And it's looking really powerful. That's what I'll say straight off the jump. Because with the Tree of Life in the action position here, it's gorgeous. It's talking to me about this spiritual journey that you're on. Straight away, we're grounded in spirituality for both Taurus and Sagittarius. There is a Taurus reading already out, and it was really wrapped in you breaking away from that hanged man energy and going for that justice, accepting transcendence. Really important for Taurus. So now we've got a sequel, and it includes a Sagittarius, and you could be dealing with a Sag, dealing with a Taurus, or either or. But we're grounding both of you together in this important spiritual journey and a really powerful manifestation that's at play. Yeah? You could be a rock star, a magician, a drummer. You could be into arts and role play, cosplay, gaming, streaming. You could be into cryptocurrency. You could be a creative, a hermit. You could live in a really rural, private location. You could do something in a cemetery, I get. I am a clairvoyant, intuitive reader. I'm just going with what I get, okay? But we do have some cards out. And in the past position, we've got the King of Pentacles. Really, really stable king we've got here. Someone financially stable on their own. Once again, I get drummer energy. You could be a shaman, spiritualist. I get a lot of powerful green, naturist, nature reserve. You could own a cemetery, I get. Own something sacred. Or be building your own like Stonehenge. I get art, but I get outdoors. I get sacred land. You could be well off or wealthy or rich and own sacred locations. You could work with government. You could own very auspicious seas, I want to say. Take that as that resonates. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to be here all day. Fascinating energy is gripping me, though, because it gives me really gorgeous, what is the word? Landscape, heritage, auspicious locations that could be private or would normally be publicly owned are potentially owned by you, yeah? Massive plots of land that you share with the government or local council, but it's yours. Or you have a beautiful property that others see and they can only go along the footpath. There's some exquisitation and higher level kingship here. It's not often I pull the King of Pentacles and I'm actually talking to someone who is probably very old and potentially even knows a king or knows the king of the United Kingdom, yeah? Which we wouldn't want to brag about too much, to be honest with you guys, at a time like this. Let's just say, my goodness. But at the end of the day, there's that energy here. So let's keep going, especially with the Hermit in the middle, because it's about you shining a light here on what you do have. What you do have could be so sacred, nobody knows. Nobody knows your relation or connection. You could be in line for something. Someone's in line for something. Maybe you other countries have kings and royalty. I'm not playing around with this royalty energy or next to the throne. Do you get what I mean? And I could say that as VP or someone who's going to get an inherited wealth, someone who's going to get inherited land, someone who will take the seat in business or even in hierarchy through government. There's all these things that are changing actually in like the House of Lords or the ministry, different aspects of the ministry where you immediately get put up the rung or into some kind of arena or field where you can freely advance and be given a higher status. It looks like someone's stepping into a very auspicious royal ministry role, and it doesn't have to be government, but take that as that resonates. And this could be stewardship through a spiritual faith. This could be you going up in the clergy, in church, or in the ministry. I want to keep talking about church and ministry, but institution and royalty and king and sacred land. Very interesting. What an interesting read. Then we go over to the future, and it's the Fool. It's about you taking a risk here, and it's something to do with nature, I must say, because when I look at this image, all of these images, and the cards I've got here with me that you can't actually see, there's this money, but this money is looking like a leaf. It's money and it's nature. It's money and it's leaves. It's money and a tree. It's money manifesting through a naturalist approach, a natural way of living, yeah? Some kind of natural, holistic, authentic, earthly, grounded, tangible thing is coming into fruition because of this spiritual sovereignty, but also kingship. And someone who's spent a long time, you could be over the age of 50, late 60s, 70s. Obviously, that's not going to be for everyone, but I'm just going with it. Or at least in your mannerisms, energy, in the ethereal realm, you're a very enlightened soul. You could eat after eights and drink sherry. And that's not me stereotyping. I genuinely receive sherry in a glass and after eights. Whatever's going on around you, yeah, it shows that you're very hardworking. You have been for a very, very long time. And you could own a brewery, yeah? You could make wine, ale, whiskey, vodka, rum. You could be a craftsman. I get a very skilled craftsman. It gives me someone who makes metal hoofs for the horse, yeah? Horseshoes. It gives me someone who makes horseshoes. It's that kind of era. It's that kind of vibration. It's that kind of energy. It's that kind of world we're in this reading. This could be just for one person because it's very, very specific, but we've got a Sagittarius and Taurus here. So it's interesting that we've got two zodiacs coming together. You could have a lot of Taurus in your chart, a lot of Sagittarius in your chart, or your husband or wife, or whoever you're working for. This isn't one person, may I add. Your mother or father, especially if they're in spirit, they could have been these zodiacs. You could be a total different zodiac. You could be a Taurus or even a Capricorn, but your parent could be a Capricorn or a Sagittarius. There's this overlay here. There's this overlap where you have inherited so much from your ancestors, and you carry that torch, you carry that light. It gives me someone walking around the farmyard or the estate very late at night with that torch and that light, and you're very aware of your abundance and your wealth, although you wouldn't probably say abundance or even prosperity, but you live a very honourable life, and you very much believe in all the hard work that you've done, and you've accrued a lot of coin, a lot of money because of your craft. You could even do paving, yeah, real craftsmanship, a technician, carpenter, ceiling repairs, woodwork. Once again, shoes. You could have started off shining shoes at a young age and worked your way up. I get that energy strongly. All of this really, what era is that? A very specific era. And it seems quite stereotypical, but that's what I get. Someone's life journey's been very, very auspicious. You're incredibly hard working. And you have just gone at it year and year and year. And you've got a lot to show for it. You could have some awards. Trophies, medals, mantelpiece full of trophies, yeah? Very recognised. Very humble, very private, very personal. Now I even say that and the reading opens up even more, and it suggests to me I could be connecting with someone high profile who isn't into any of the crafts I suggested. But the way in which you work, it transcends. Definitely transcends into someone who would have done a trade like that. Regardless of what you do, showbiz or not, incredibly hard working. So you could call yourself a craftsman of whatever you do, right? With that, your surrounding energy, the sun. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous energy. Because I'm looking at the white horse and this eternal youth. This eternal spring. Now, no matter how old you are, you've got this eternal youth. You may not have any children because you have this eternal child in you, potentially. You live a very prosperous life. I feel like, why am I talking to you in this way? This isn't even normally how I do readings. Like, I'm catching myself. I'm just telling you, this is who you are. Hello, sir. This is your life. Tell me if I'm right. Hit the like if this is your reality. Because I'm not even being told to or being guided to give you advice or say this or say that. I'm just reading your essence, the characteristic of you, which is fascinating. And I keep looking at the Sagittarius and Taurus combo here, and I'm like, where are we going with this? This feels like one person's energy. So it's really fascinating to me. Because the challenge position is this manifestation coming into fruition with whatever you do in your life. Videographer, I want to say here. Studio time. Why do I want to say Studio 61? I don't know where that is, what that is, if that's a significant thing. But now I get Studio 61. I definitely get a white I want to say animal, I want to say totem, but I want to say there's this white purity energy, right? And I want to link it to 100 different things, but I'm going to hone in on the mountain that one has climbed, I want to say. Because I do genuinely want to talk about the peaks and troughs of your life and your career and the judgments that could be made around someone like you. So I said, if you know the king, if you are actually Caucasian, then the stereotypes that now surround somebody of you and your caliber would imply you didn't make it on your own, yeah, which is couldn't be further from the truth, yeah, couldn't be further. So you could be quite a feisty, mean, aggressive character at times, and that maybe transcends in your personality, but it's because there is this guard around you, and actually it feels like a protective armor from your ancestors that goes, don't you dare fucking say white privilege to me. Which is fascinating. I'm going to have to label this white privilege now. Just for the banter, guys. Clickbait. I'm learning what clickbait is. I was a lovely spiritualist, still on one view. I'm going to have to start using clickbait. We're going to call this white privilege just for you, sir. Okay? But listen, we're not saying that's true. We're not saying that's true at all. And I like to have these conversations. I'm biracial. We'll throw that out there to lessen the burden. But we do know people do indeed hate a dilute and a mulatto. So I'm at risk no matter what I say, my goodness. But the truth of the matter is, without spinning this into a really toxic racial read, even though we should be allowed to speak about race in any context freely, it opens up conversation here around what it means to get to your age, get to your position in life, travel the path in which you did to get there, and be able to humbly receive a less than positive narrative and still understand who you are and be able to share that. The reason I speak so freely about kind of white privilege and this kind of stuff, not only because I was raised in the environment of white and black and seeing that divide all the time, but I've also had experiences where we've kind of done social experiments or had the kind of conversations where a whole group of middle-aged white people are in the room with a whole load of younger black youth. I want to say a whole load of 50 plus white individuals and a whole load of minus 30 black individuals all going at it in conversation about white privilege. To be in an environment like that and see how everyone responds, and then to see the ones who say nothing or are mixed and go, whoa, I don't know what to say. If you're somewhere in between those age groups and somewhere between those races, where do you even get into the conversation or the debate about this? Researchers, philosophers, theorists, we all have these kind of conversations. Head over to hermitology.me. You'll see the different stuff we do over there. A lot of shit. You'll probably get lost and not find your way. But I'll pin critical race theory here as an interesting debate and conversation to have, because what I identified in the experience I'm thinking about now is, in the moment, someone kind of screamed out, all white people are privileged. The other group, and the group of 50 plus whites, said, that's not true, I can't stand that narrative, I'm not a racist, pandemonium in the environment, absolute pandemonium. I'm a researcher, social experimentalist. I was in heaven. I was like, my goodness, look at this shit show. Woohoo! But the truth is, a label like white privilege immediately triggers the internal, because that implies that you're racist. That implies that you didn't get there on your own. That implies that your life sees you're better off in all these different aspects. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? That's not true, right? And on the opposite narrative is, and we throw in a little bit of critical race theory here, is we get a whole load of black people who have come up and gone, I haven't had all of these opportunities. I haven't had access. I've never been in these rooms. I've never experienced any of these things. I've never known how to socialize in these situations. My demeanor, I speak quite a lot about dialect, yeah? We may all speak English, but we have a lot of different dialects. Do you get what I'm saying, bruv? Fam, do you get? There's road code, there's lingo, there's language, and it may sound ignorant, silly, stupid, but it makes a difference. There is culture, yeah? We all have our own social group, our own community and culture. So this lovely story that we came in with of this upbringing of, my dad used to make horseshoes and he taught me that trade, and then I learned how to make this, and then I inherited this. And it's not even about inheritance, because you're an incredible 8 of Pentacles, yeah? And there's this feeling here of never really feeling like you can glorify what you have a little bit in certain situations, maybe racially specific, because there's always this connotation that because you're white, you've received that as a privilege anyway. Yeah? So that's a hard narrative, and maybe something that you just needed to hear today to understand that it isn't something to fear or begrudge or be annoyed about or ever hold back on, because some of the most beautiful conversations that have been had and in these kind of social settings is where we get to go there. And it's like, I remember saying to the group of white people who were really offended, saying, I hate that term, you're saying I'm racist, you're saying I'm privileged, I'm not. And the first thing was that we had to break the illusion of was, No one's saying you're racist first and foremost. That's not what's being said here. But the black people in the room are identifying that their route to success doesn't look like yours. And they question your route to success as a smoother journey in relation to theirs, and that's where the privilege in their mind frame comes from. Now, this is an interesting conversation because we don't bring up asylum seekers, Eastern Europeans, Middle Eastern, immigration at this time, and we don't identify that some white people are arse fucking broke and poor and living on the council estate right next door to us. And the same privilege that supposedly, or the privilege that they supposedly have, is definitely not there. Yeah? So it's about personal experience and letting other people say what they want to say, but it's also about you having your voice. So the thing for me is you understanding you're allowed a voice, no matter what. And it doesn't matter if you're black or white, but the truth of the matter is it doesn't. But a lot of people will be like, how dare you say that? You must advocate for black liberation. As a black woman, are you crazy? And on the other side, you get Tommy Robinson and his fan club screaming, kill all dilutes. They're diluting the race. So there's a spectrum of difference, and it's okay. The voice is valuable, okay? So just know that if you feel like you have more purpose and more of your journey to share, but there's so much aspects of your journey that you haven't shared because the label of white privilege kind of haunts you and you go, fuck it, not going to even go near it, not going to wear it, can't even talk about my successes or my 8 of Pentacles because all it's going to do is take away from my sun and my joy, yeah? You've got so much to give, so much light in your heart, so much positivity, and there will be challenge in your reality, because what I will say is coming up, being raised in a biracial family and my dad being mixed race and only knowing the white side of his family, so my dad was raised completely in a white family. He was in prison most of his life. He didn't have the greatest upbringing. My nan wasn't well off, yeah, but she did get an award from the Queen, yeah. She worked in service to the Queen, and my nan's husband also worked on London buses for years. So I've had that scope of whiteness and my white side of the family, On the black side of my family, we've come from a Jamaican era, came from Jamaica to the UK for a better life. And my grandma, Jamaican born, loved the Commonwealth, loved the Queen, valued the Queen above all else, and valued the Commonwealth. It was very important to her. And the moment that the Queen's speech came on, we would all be told to shut up and not make a single sound. And my gran would be writing down, taking notes, listening to every word that came out of the Queen's mouth. And it would be so precious and important to her. Yeah? And then we had a really strong Christian family on my Jamaican side as well. Church, that made me go to a church school in primary, which is quite like a private school. I only realised that after the fact. I only realise it even more now. I'm older. I'm like, whoa, I was really quite privileged to go to that church school, because that gave me a good start in life, very different to the public schools now. Yeah? So I got blessed with privilege of church school from actually my black heritage Jamaican side. That pushed for that, because my grandma said, no, they need to go to a church school. I don't want them in the public school. Which gave me a great start in life. And my nan, on my dad's side, white family, showed me hard-working ethics and a long-term job committed in service. Both my nan and nan's husband is like a granddad to me. or worked all their life in service. So we all have different experiences, you know. Some people don't have that experience, and that's why your voice is so important. That's why your journey is so important. I always advocate for people, no matter what it is, and whether people agree or disagree, speak on it. You know, like I came here now, I had no idea where we were going in this. I thought we was going to end this early. I thought, I'm just telling you, you got a great life. What are you doing here? You know? But it's allowed us to open up and really explore concepts that we probably wouldn't be able to have openly and freely without some serious rehearsal. Or if it wasn't in a stand-up comedic way. Because it opens a can of worms. During that experiment, that one I'm referring to, when I was at uni, it was fantastic because we had, and I say blacks and whites because I'm comfortable with black people and white people and I don't really care, right? But if you're offended, I can only apologise. But the way I'm going at it is the blacks are going, no, this ain't fair, all cussing. And then the white people are like, no, you're saying I'm racist, I'm not racist, it was pandemonium. It was great because I like to experiment and it's in a controlled environment, and I guess it wasn't meant to go that way, but it did. And I got to kind of sit in the middle and be a mediator and share my experience of both. But at the end, I hope it gave everyone an opportunity to see the other side a little bit more. And everyone on the black side was like, yeah, we're not saying that you're racist. We're not saying that you are carrying racism or you hate us. We're just saying we feel, and the racism wasn't even on the table, but we feel that you have better opportunities than we do. And the critical race theory piece is fantastic, that I do have out on hermitology.me, because it goes there a little bit. It shows you the spectrum of multiple perspectives, and not only that, it goes, is that happening because there's an actual issue there and there's privilege there or racism there? Or is it just our own perception because we project? And that's the reality of life. We will never know in certain situations because in one instance, on the train, on the bus, in the staff room, you could be sitting around somebody who has no racial slurs or negative connotation towards you and your race. Half of her friends are black, her grandkids are black, her best friend's black, her boyfriend's black, you never know it. She's talking freely, but you could make assumptions if she said something about a black person. Oh, that black lady down the road, you could jump down the woman's throat, not knowing that half her family's black, or that she's potentially mixed and without looking like it. In so many different instances, these things happen and we all make assumptions. But that's why we have to be able to transcend the mere fear of race and privilege and prestige and where we've come from and why community and knowing others are so important. Because that same person in the staff room that also said, oh, that black woman up the road, could be a leading disciple for Tommy Robinson. Could have been a absolute EDL supporter since the start of time. So you never know what you're going to get. But that is life. And that's why it's really important to show up as you and present as you and be you. And whether that's positive or negative, cancel culture's real. And you're clearly established in life. You don't really have the need to do any of that. But in any ways that you can feel liberatory by speaking your story, it shares so much for everybody else. Because it at least lessened the blow in that room that day, that just saying someone's white privilege doesn't also mean you're a racist. We think that you're a racist, or we think that it, like, and I don't know how the term just sends red flags and dimensions of fear into so many. But you've got to be able to just be and own it and understand there's difference. And I mean, the irony of black and white wars and hatred in a world full of so many other races and immigration the way it is right now is astonishing, because it's just like, whoa, Look how many years this has been going on. And now we've got all of this Islamic hate, LGBTQ hate. The hate on the planet is through the roof. Unfathomable. It's devastating for me to be clairvoyant, psychic medium, to know what I see coming in the future. That's why I try and I say broker these conversations now. When they do show up and present it in a reading and in the cards, I'll rather fucking challenge myself to kind of go there and say something. I didn't know we were going here today, that something peaked up and we kind of went here, and I thought, fuck it, let's go then. Because if we don't, God, the future's going to be even worse. And I mean, if it's the little things that we can say and do, and our own unique stories, that can change the tides. When I stepped in during that kind of social experience, nobody knew I had white family. I looked black. Everyone thought I was black. No one knew. I grew up with a whole white side of the family that had kind of no black influence, because my dad never knew his black side. So my dad grew up white family only. Another guy in the room, also black guy, he was adopted. He grew up with an adopted white family. Made it clear he had no conceptualization of white privilege or any of that stuff. He grew up in a healthy, happy white home. Fascinating when the conversation started to open up, and how we all psychologically, uniquely process our realities based on our own personal experiences. It was so interesting. So I just want you to know, don't think that your story isn't valid. Don't think your hard work and your journey, and maybe you wanted to write a book about your life. Maybe you wanted to do a kind of a story, a biopic. You wanted to do something. Or there's more to your life. That's the point, okay? So although you're a maturer man, I want to say, maturer masculine energy, you could be feminine either or, yeah? But don't shy away from your truest story. And it, because I keep getting that same narrative in my head. You know, when you're rich and then you complain about something, or you're a celebrity and you complain about something, oh, the celebrity struggling, oh my goodness. Oh, the rich one's got a problem, oh my. Now, it's fantastic to mock and laugh at. I'm overjoyed. I am an absolute nightmare and a piss taker. It's hilarious in comedy, but in reality, some of that hits a nerve. And some of that gets you really gritty and pissed off, because there's more to you, okay? So that's just me saying I see you, I receive you. Sorry for the clickbait title, but there's more to you than the label of white privilege. You are allowed to explore it, you are allowed to speak on it, and you are allowed to be in a room full of multicultural individuals and have a real conversation about race and put your opinion in. Your 2 cents matters, and it's rude to say 2 cents because... Or, do you know, we'll say it like that. We take it as it resonates. Because everybody's got something to bring. And you'll be surprised at what you share and how it can open up minds. Because it's about shifting consciousness. It is. We wouldn't have all these fights with the left, far left and far right and the woke mind virus if everyone could just sit down and have a fucking conversation. Because you would understand, and you would understand where somebody else comes from and why their perspective is the way it is, and why another person will feel like they're not privileged. Because you can't go around slapping white privilege on everyone. Doesn't fit. One hat don't fit all. And I think about that even more because I've put content out on one of the TV tarot pieces with the TV show Shameless. I was obsessed with the UK version of Shameless. Didn't watch the US version because, I'm offended. Why would you do a remake? That's just rude. That's a British show. Don't start me off, please. I'm really offended. I'm insulted that they would do that. I mean, oh God. Anyway, I'm gonna ground myself because I'm really annoyed and want to go off on a tangent about that. But Shameless, beautiful, beautiful show of what it means to have a really down-to-earth UK British white family. Can we say white trash without me getting judged? because I described my dad to be a Frank Gallagher character. My dad was in prison most of my upbringing. But once I was older, I realised he was Frank Gallagher. Okay? Frank Gallagher? Yeah. So, bear that in mind. And go and watch Shameless, the UK one. Never the US one. Never the US one. Ugh. Can't believe how much they scream about the US Shameless being amazing. Oh, the US, have you seen the US Shameless? No, because I watched the UK one many years ago and it was sensational. Why would I watch a knockoff? How rude. Woosah. I'm going to calm down. I told you I've got problems. I've got a turbulent personality style. I am indeed triggered. Woosah. The point being, that's white privilege, is it? Is that white privilege? Because I saw Fiona struggle with that family, with her drunken dad. And I watched all of that. And there's so much truth in that as a family in the United Kingdom, unfortunately. So can you call that white privilege? No, you can't. So we do have a spectrum and it should be explored and considered. And for you, it's a very different situation because your life's been great. But that doesn't stop you from having a very important perspective to share. Okay? And your lineage, your life journey, it teaches us something. Yeah? It does. Because we get to see life on this planet and how it varies. And if we wanted to create a life like that for our future generations, we could. Because we could learn from you. Because the chains have been broken in many different ways. And the way in which we ascend and evolve and grow now and become who we are is dependent on what we learn from our surrounding environment. And actually just the opportunity to engage and have these conversations and learn that these different pathways open up these different doors, broaden our horizons and open up privilege for everyone, you know? So there we go. What a way to go with a reading. Who knew? Not me. Hit like, hit subscribe. Only say positive things in the comments, okay? Because this was not easy to deliver, okay? Thank you for staying and being present. Love and light.